Epilogue. He stood leaning on his rifle on the high ground where he had first seen the smoke from the attack on the settlement. 3 years had passed. They had settled in Philadelphia in safety. The frontier would never be the same for his parents. The forest would always threaten them. So they had found a house, 2 stories of wood frame, among the many vacant houses in Philadelphia. Samuel's parents had started a school to take in and teach some of the many children orphaned by the war. Annie had become a great help. But Samuel had trouble fitting in. Too much city, too much town, too many people for him to feel settled, calm. And then there was that other thing that kept bothering him, the back trail. After a few months in the city, he told his parents, "Everybody helped us. At great risk, they helped us. Helped me. Everybody back there gave us everything they had. I have to go back. I owe." There were arguments, of course, almost outright fighting that went on for nearly 2 weeks. But in the end, surprisingly, it was his mother who stopped it. "No," she said finally. "He's right. He may be only 16, but age doesn't matter now. He's his own man, and if he feels that strong, he must do it." And after he sat and talked with Annie and promised he would come back, made a sacred promise that he would come back, she agreed to stay and let him leave. And he went back to the war. He worked his way up in Boston and joined Morgan's Rifles, where he also found Coop and some of the other men who had rescued him. He stayed with them for nearly 3 years. He saw fighting as he'd never seen it before, but he did not join in the firing. Instead, he hunted for meat, fixed equipment, helped the sick and wounded as best he could. He stayed until Coop died, streaming with dysentery over a slit trench in an agony of jabbering delirium, killed by dehydration. At the end, Coop didn't even know where he was, didn't know his own name. Samuel left then. He went back, but not to Philadelphia, not yet. He went back to the healing forest, where it had all started for him, and where the war had nearly vanished by this time. He found the clearing back in the woods that he had seen that first day, when he'd gone so far from home hunting bear. He stood there, trying to make the last 3 years not be. Thinking at last it was over. But of course, it wasn't finished. Philadelphia would briefly be taken by the British. Samuel's parents did not leave, but stayed to help the children. This time, oddly, the British treated them with great kindness, brought them food and blankets. Thousands more men would be killed, dying from bullets, bayonets, and sickness. The world would bring the war to the oceans, and naval men would die horribly at sea. France would send troops to help the American colonies, getting so deeply involved that it would destroy the French economy, weaken the government, and contribute to causing the French Revolution, in which many of the leaders who had helped America would die, beheaded on guillotines. The madness didn't end. Perhaps it had never ended. But for Samuel, it would come to a close in the soft beauty of the forest. The peace, for him, would hold.